Welcome back. Very happy to see you again for the Royal Canadian College of Organists, Organist Launchpad, Organ Accompaniment in the Catholic Tradition, Part 2. So, Gregorian chant and hymnody. Gregorian chant is, of course, a significant part of Catholic music tradition. It's been around for centuries. It's everywhere in the music that we sing. Whether we recognize it or not, we have, metrified settings of chant hymns that we use all the time. Some parishes may use Gregorian chant more than others. It may be at times due to what can feel like difficulty in entering into a musical language that is older than traditional modern hymnody. The reality is that it's actually quite easy to sing, it's quite easy to accompany, and it's quite beautiful. My experience has been that if it's introduced effectively to a congregation, it can really help bring that community together, and you are at the center of that. Now, for some people, Gregorian chant will be very familiar. For others, it will be entirely new. Now, keep in mind that there is a different notation altogether. So, what differentiates Gregorian chant and modern notation? The first thing that you might notice is rhythm. In Gregorian chant, we have a completely different system of rhythm. In modern notation, take for example the hymn, All People That on Earth Do Dwell. So, Old 100th is the hymn tune. We have 4/4 bars, we have very clear notation, 4 phrases, everything's in G major. It's extremely clear for someone to be able to sing. Chant differs in the sense that the bar lines do not indicate the same kind of upbeats and downbeats as they do for us for modern hymnody. What's more is that you'll find that the phrases themselves can go on quite a while before you see, a quarter bar or a half bar or something to that effect. So that's the first thing. Rhythm, bar lines are different in Gregorian chant than they are in modern hymnody. The second thing, and equally important, would be the fact that Gregorian chant is modal. So what do I mean by that, I guess? So one way to think about it is that what characterizes a lot of what we hear as modern music would be, a sense of a 5/1 cadence. So take, for example, the hymn, All People That on Earth Do Dwell. So when we think of the difference between tonal and modal music, what I want you to consider is that in modal music, we don't have that same sense of 5/1 cadential formulas. We don't have notes, accidentals that come into play from totally different keys. We stay within a finite collection of notes, and those are the notes within which we work. So, take for example, we're going to do a simple Alleluia. This will be familiar to you if you have worked in a Catholic church before. This is a gospel acclamation refrain. It's in the Catholic Book of Worship 3. It's been around for quite a long time, and we can think about it being harmonized in a few different ways. I'm first going to harmonize it in a way where I really, first of all, emphasize 5. And you're going to hear the 5/1 cadence. So the melody goes like this. So if I were to harmonize that and create a strong sense of 5, what would I do? Notice that I had a strong sense of 5. I also had a 7th, so I created a dominant 7th harmony before the tonic. So those kinds of things are things that we want to avoid in Gregorian chant harmonization. Instead, I would invite you to consider the use of 1, 1, 6, 2, 6, 4, chords and harmonies that do not emphasize that dominant tonic relationship as well as the leading tone to tonic relationship. So, for example, that would be an option for harmonizing it. Now, I believe strongly that it's important to strive for what is beautiful. So what we just did was a kind of straightforward harmonization of the Alleluia. Perhaps we can fill in the notes a bit. Perhaps we can create denser textures. So what about this? It's important to go with notes that stay within the mode, but I invite you to also consider ways in which you can harmonize the chant to make it more beautiful. Keep in mind that for the congregation, what they're listening for is the melody, but they will hear the harmony as an extension of that. So that's the first thing. The Alleluia we just did, we looked at harmonizing it in a way that avoided 5-1. We went with the phrases of the Alleluia in terms of kind of the division of the chant. And now we're going to look at a full chant hymn. So Veni Creator Spiritus is a chant hymn that's used a lot at Pentecost. It's used for confirmations. It's a familiar melody. Now, what I'll do the first time around is give a full introductory verse. The reason for this kind of goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about basically making sure that you are being attentive to the needs of everyone in the congregation. So an introduction isn't for the people who know the hymn. It's not for the people who can read notes. It's for everyone who might need a refresher. It's for everyone who learns by rote. It's for people who learn simply by pitch matching. And so by giving a full verse introduction, what you are doing is you are taking on that role of musical leader, of teacher. So as an organ accompanist, you are not only playing the notes, you are also serving as a guide. You are serving as someone who the congregation can look to unite them in music. So we're going to do a full introduction. Make sure that you are setting the congregation up for success. And as you give the whole introduction, I want you to consider a few things. So what will the tempo be for this hymn? So set it up in your mind before you begin. What will the registration be? And I want you to try to sing it in your head so that when you're breathing with the congregation. Remember that an organ doesn't actually need you to, you don't need to really take a breath for an instrument to keep going, right? You can just hold down the notes. The thing is, for the congregation, when they're singing, they need that sense of inner connection, the sense that you are singing with them vocally, which will help them pace themselves in between the phrases. So here's a full introductory verse of Veni Creator Spiritus. I'm going to harmonize it in a way that stays within the notes of the mode. So notice all the notes were within the collection of the mode. Now I'll harmonize it again. I'm going to stay within the mode, but I'll give you an example of a way in which I could still create a tonal harmonization of this hymn, which is what we want to avoid. So here's the first phrase, and I'm going to create a strong sense of 5-1. So we want to avoid harmonies that create that sense of 5-1, of T-do motion. You want to keep the line moving. Again, stay with 1, 1-6. You can use 2, 2-6, 4, but avoid a 5-1 kind of functional cadential moment. This first verse that I registered, 16-8-4-2. So you can still hear the melody quite clearly, but it's not the only option. You could choose to harmonize a verse with, maybe you want to do a verse without pedal. You can do that. It can be just 8 and 4 foot. Maybe to make it clear to the congregation where the melody is in the broader texture, you want to do a verse that is with the cornet as a solo. So here would be a way of harmonizing it again, where the melody is going to be on a separate manual. I'm going to put it on the cornet here, and I'm going to have 8 and 4 in the left hand, 16, 8 in the pedal. So it doesn't necessarily need to be registered any one way. Just keep in mind that the lines need to sing, that unlike in hymnody that is, kind of straightforward, traditional, metric, homophonic hymnody, like, all people that on earth do dwell, chant requires a bit more flexibility in the lines, and for the congregation to really understand where the breaks are, they're going to look to you. So let the lines sing. Make sure, of course, that registration is balanced, both to the congregation when it's congregation portions, and to the cantor when it's just the cantor. So here then, Gregorian chant and hymnody, when we're looking at anything that involves the congregation, even if there's a cantor leading it at the front, remember that this is a moment where we take on 2 of those 3 roles. So you're not a soloist here, you're not just an accompanist, you're an accompanist and you're a musical leader. You are guiding the congregation through this. You are helping them to sing together. So that's Gregorian chant and hymnody. Join me for the next segment where I'll be speaking about cantor accompaniment specifically and how to transition effectively from cantor alone portions to congregation and cantor. Hope to see you then.